Hello, in this video we're going to go through UncrownedData's Steam guide on setting up multiple Dungeon Defender games on the same computer. I'm familiar with Sandboxie. I've used Sandboxie for Dungeon Defenders Awakened, and the setup was quite simple. The Dungeon Defender setup is very different. Dungeon Defenders really want you to have multiple IP addresses so that each game will use a specific IP address so that you can actually launch and actually create a session for Dungeon Defenders to work. So it's a lot different than Dungeon Defenders 2 or Dungeon Defenders Awakened, which is just launching the game through Steam, which is in a sandbox environment, and then just running the game. It's very different than it is for Dungeon Defenders, so we're going to go through the guide and just get started. The guide I'm using is obviously by UncrownedData on Steam, playing multiple accounts on one PC made easy. This was intimidating for me, but after I've done this 4 or 5 times, and I've attempted to make this video at least 3 times, I did actually make this video last night and realized I didn't actually have my mic enabled, so everything I said was lost. So here is take 4 of this video. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through the first part. There's a couple guides they have listed in here. They have a guide to Asen's guide on setting up Sandboxie. We're going to reference this in a moment just because there are some things that in this guide didn't work for me, and they may work for you, but for me I had to do something a little bit different. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through step 1. We're going to have multiple Steam accounts. Yes, I actually have multiple Steam accounts. I did that for Dungeon Defenders Awakened, I did that for Portal 2, and now I'm doing it for Dungeon Defenders 1. And there's links to Sandboxie and ForceBindIP. I've actually already downloaded those, so we're going to go ahead and go through step 2 at this point, and we're going to go ahead and install Sandboxie Plus. And we're just going to take the defaults all the way through. And I'll start Sandbox Plus. I'll click Next. I'm using it for personal use. Next. Next, 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 and finish. Alright, it is installed, and we can see here that there is already a default sandbox there. So I'm going to minimize this for now, and we're going to go to the next one. We're going to install ForceBindIP. And this program, just like the other one, is we're just taking the defaults all the way through. Finish. That is installed. They have another one called NoClose, which is it's a portable application that you run that will allow you to remove the X from your window so you don't accidentally close windows. I haven't actually found this to be an issue for myself, so I did not actually go the route of using NoClose. If you find yourself accidentally closing Dungeon Defenders while you're in the middle of armor runs, this may be the program that you want to definitely use. We go down to step 5, and we're talking about understanding networking may be required, and that you're going to need a beefy CPU. My PC is quite updated. I have a 4090 video card and a pretty decent CPU. My computer can definitely handle running Dungeon Defenders multiple times. So now let's get to part 2. Well, part 1. And that is basically creating an additional IP address for your alternate accounts. There are links, and this is the link that I actually use. I went to the first link that they have in the guide into this page here, into actually setting up a secondary IP address. And the main part that for me that I needed to worry about running was this part right here, this ncpa.cpl. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to hit start, and then I'm just going to paste it in there, and then I'm going to hit enter. This is going to bring up all of my network connections that I have, and actually you see everything is disabled except for the one network connection that actually I have data coming across. So I'm going to minimize all of these windows for right now, and I'm going to bring up a command window. Now in the guide, let me go back over here. They want a command. They want you to run a command to I can't even find it in the guide right now. Oh, I'm sorry, it's right there. They want you to run this in the command window. If I run that, we're going to find that I have a single IP address, which is my main IP address. This is an IP address that I've actually already gone into my router and into my DHCP settings and have set a static IP address for my computer so that my computer will always have this IP address. So what we're going to want to do is create a second IP address for the same network card. This is the top of my DHCP range, so I am going to actually use .253 as my second IP address, as that IP is just not going to be given out by my DHCP server that's running on the router. So what I am going to actually do is type in ipconfig/all, and this is going to give me all of the information I'm looking for. This is the information that I have for my network card, and the reason I want to have all this information is so that when I do add my IP address information in, it's a lot easier to find. From here you see my IP address is 2.52, which is what it is, my subnet mask, my default gateway, and my DNS server. This is all information that we're going to need. So we're going to go back over here to our network connections, and I'm just going to double click on my Ethernet connection. And I'm going to go ahead and click on Properties. And then where it says Internet Protocol version 4, I'm going to double click that. And now we're going to basically manually, instead of our network card obtaining an IP address automatically from your DHCP server, which is from your router, I'm going to go ahead and manually enter that information. So I'm going to click the radio buttons to manually add this information in, and I'm going to type the information in that's coming that we got from this command. That's 192.168.50.252. Now I'm going to hit tab, which will auto fill in the subnet mask. I'll hit tab again, and I'll enter in the default gateway. And I'll go ahead and fill in my DNS server as well. Alright, so I've entered all the information in that is from here, that we're already getting from our DHCP server. And I'm going to click on the Advanced button. You can see that we have the 252 address here, which is what mine is. Now we're going to go ahead and add the second IP address. 253, and I'm going to hit tab again to autofill the subnet mask. I click add, and now our network card has two IP addresses. I'm going to click OK, 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 and close. Now if I go back in and rerun that command that we originally ran the first time, we're going to see now I have two IP addresses, 252 and 253. Whatever IP addresses you choose, that is entirely up to you. I just use the top of the range. Usually your DHCP server goes up to like 254, so I just grabbed the two of the highest end on the DHCP list, and that's just the two that I'm using for myself. All right, so we have actually now completed this whole section here. Which I would almost say is the hardest part to do. We have we've altered our network card to use two IP addresses. Now we're going to go ahead and create our sandboxes. So we don't need this anymore, and we don't need this anymore. So we'll go back into Sandboxie, and we see here we're setting up at global. The global settings will automatically just pop up. Under shell integration, I have add. This is already in there. This is just the default. We are good to go here. I'm just going to click OK. Nothing I really need to set. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to reset. I'm going to just rename this sandbox. I'm going to name it DD1. I'm going to click OK. We can see the name changed over here. Now what I'm going to do is, I know the settings, the guide says to create your sandboxes. What I'm actually going to do is, the sandbox is technically created. We've named it DD1. This guide also says that you do not need Steam Sand folders. What they're referring to in this part here is in ASIN's guide, which was linked at the very top of the other guide. It talks about making a copy of your Steam folder in the program files folders. This guide says you don't need to do that. I found that I absolutely had to do that, because when I didn't, I was getting Steam helper errors over and over and over again every time I launched it on my alt. So when I went ASIN's route, everything worked the way I anticipated it to work. So I'm going to follow ASIN's part here for just a moment, and then we'll go back to the main guide. So in ASIN's guide, this whole folder setup and game copy. What they want you to do is they want you to go to C program files x86 Steam, which is generally where Steam is actually installed. So I'm going to go there, program files, and then we get the Steam folder. I'm going to create a folder in this directory right here. I'm going to go right click and go new folder, and I'm going to name it Steam Sand, short for Sandbox. Then I'm going to go into the Steam folder and I'm going to grab the steam.exe file. If you do not see an extension after where it says Steam, you definitely need to go to Options, click on the three dots. I'm on Windows 11, so I just click on the Options. I click on the three dots, I click Options, I click on View. I then make sure that then I uncheck this box that says Hide Extensions for Known File Types. If that's unchecked, or if it is checked, uncheck it, click Apply, OK. You'll be able to see your extensions. I'm going to grab the steam.exe file, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go back into the Steam Sand folder. Yes. Alright, so that file is in there. Now what I want to do, this is a little different than what the guide says. We basically completed what ASIN wanted. ASIN actually wanted you to also copy other directories in the folder, which was not only just the steam.exe file, but an additional folder which actually had all your games installed. I found that you don't actually really need to do this. You just need to just copy the steam.exe, and then once we launch this in a sandbox, it's going to fill in all the things that Steam needs for it to actually run. So now we're going to go into this next step with the Sandboxie setup. We're going to actually click back on Sandbox. We're going to right click, go to Sandbox Options, and then we're going to go to Resource Access. So we are looking at the Sandbox options for DD1. I'm going to click on this little drop down arrow and I'm going to click Browse for Folder. I'm then going to navigate, see Program Files x86, and then Steam Sand. Click on Steam Sand and click Select Folder, and I'm just going to make sure that all programs have access. They don't have read-only, they don't have close, that it's open. So this sandbox will have full access to this specific folder. I'm going to click Apply, and I'm going to click OK. So now I've done my resource access for that particular folder, which is part of ASIN's guide right in here. So we don't really need ASIN's guide anymore, but we are going to go ahead in this one part. We're going to know how to run. So this is the next step. I'm going to minimize this, and if you right click on your steam.exe from that Steam Sand folder, you'll see an option in here that says Run Sandboxed. If that option isn't in there, go back to your sandbox, click on Options, Global Settings, Shell Integration, and make sure it says Run Sandbox Actions. Make sure that this checkbox right here is checked, which will add that to your right click menus. So I'm going to go right click on steam.exe, I'm going to click Run Sandboxed. It's going to ask me which sandbox do I want to run this in. If you have multiple sandboxes, you can definitely choose that. I'm going to go ahead and choose DD1, and I'm going to choose this Run as UAC Administrator. I'm going to click OK. We're going to start seeing this folder start filling up as Steam does its thing. It's going to start downloading what it needs. It's going to go in there, and then it's going to prompt us to sign in. Alright, now we'll go ahead and sign in. I actually have my alternate account set up through Steam Mobile as well, and I'll go ahead and approve my sign in, and this will now log me in. If, when you do this process, when you initially launch Steam through the sandbox and it automatically logs you into your main account, you will want to go to your main account. First, click on where your name is, and then click Sign Out of Account, and then rerun the sandbox Steam to make sure that it picks the right. It allows you to log in, and you'll be able to set up your account. For me, it did not happen this time. It hasn't really happened when I've done this process where I create the Steam Sand folder and just copy the steam.exe file in there. So I haven't had to really worry about logging out of my main account. But if when you do launch it and it pulls you in your main account, just know this will sign out of your main account and then retry it, and you should be prompted to sign in and then sign in with your alternate account through your Sandbox. We can definitely tell that I'm in my Sandbox environment because the big yellow outline when I'm hovering over the window. We can also see down here the Steam has a yellow box around it, so this is our Sandbox environment, and we can see, there's pound Steam pound, which just lets us know that that's the Sandbox environment. So this is my alternate account, and if I go to library, we're going to see, hey, I got my 2 games, but I go to Dungeon Defenders and it wants me to install. I've already got this thing installed, so what I need to actually do is basically setting up your new Steam account. Is I'm going to go to Steam, and I'm going to go to Settings, and then I'm going to go to Storage. So Steam's already defaulted just the C, that doesn't have any other drive, so I'm going to click on this drop down, and I'm going to click Add Drive, because I already know where my Dungeon Defenders actually is installed. I'm going to click this drop down, and I'm going to click let me choose another location. And then I'm going to click Add. For me, I have Dungeon Defenders installed in my E drive in a specific folder. And so I'm just going to select this, and then you'll see over here on the left, all of my games that were already installed in that drive just populated in here. Even though they're not part of my alternate account, the fact that they exist they'll still populate in here. So then I will go ahead, and now I'm done here. I've added that other drive, and we see this says Dungeon Defenders Moose Branch. That is simply just because I'm currently running the beta for the next update. All right, let me just retry everything, see what happens. All right, there we go. So now I don't have to reinstall the game. It's in the E drive. We're good to go. All right, and now technically our Steam account for our alternate is ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and minimize this. I'll close that out, and now I do not need to take my hardware survey. We're now done with the Steam Sand directory, so we don't need that anymore. And I'm just going to minimize this. Let's just go back to the guide. And then go back to UncrownedData's guide. So at this point here, we've created our sandboxes. We are all done with this part here. What we now need to do is actually create a shortcut so that when we run Dungeon Defenders for our main account, it uses a specific IP address. If you just go into your main account, and if I just clicked in here and just clicked run or click play, there's no guarantee what directory, what IP address that's going to launch off of. So we'll need to create 2 links to launch Dungeon Defenders. We need to create one for our main account to use a specific IP address, and create another for our alternate account to use the other IP address that we've added to our network card. We'll also need to create a shortcut for Steam to run in a sandbox environment. And that is what part 3, step part 2. That's what this step's about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy the code that UncrownedData has already put in here, and we're going to create a batch file. I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and then I am actually going to create this batch file. I'm actually going to go ahead and put this in a folder I already have created called DD1, and I'm just going to right click in here. I'm going to go to new, and I'm going to say text document, and I'm going to call this DD1 main. I'm now going to open up that text file, and I'm going to paste what we just copied. And so here, echo off just means, hey, we don't want to display this. This is the path to ForceBind, and now we need to enter our IP address. And our IP address that I used for mine is 2.52. Now we have, this is the direct, and then, so we have we're going to run ForceBind, we're going to use this IP address, and then we're going to launch the game. But my Dungeon Defenders is not installed here. We need to go to we need to change this part of that code to where your Dungeon Defenders is installed. I actually know where it is, but an easy way to always find that out is to go to your main account. You can right click on Dungeon Defenders and go to Manage, and then go Browse Local Files. Doing that will bring up this directory, and the directory we're looking for is actually in binary Win32, and we're looking for this dundef game.exe. So that's the directory we want. So what I need to do is just click in this free space over here to the right of all of this, and I'm going to go ahead and copy that. This is the path to that file. And I'm going to change all of this except for that last part, that done.def.game.exe. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and save it. So we've created, we now have created the right information we need to launch our main game using this IP address. This is the IP address we're going to use, and here's the path to the game for me. Yours may be different. I'm going to go ahead and close that. And now I'm going to go in here, and where it says .txt, I'm going to get rid of the .txt. I'm going to click BAT. I'm changing that to a batch file. And yes, I definitely want to change that extension. I'll click yes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to say create shortcut. Alright, you can see here's my shortcut. I'm going to drag my shortcut to my desktop. So now I have my shortcut. I'm going to get rid of the BAT. I have my shortcut which will launch Dungeon Defenders on my main account. Now I don't like this icon, so I'm going to go ahead and right click on the icon. I'm going to go to properties, and I'm going to click change icon. Now I've already created a whole bunch of Dungeon Defenders icons, so I'm going to go ahead and use these, and I'm going to say my main account, I want to use Apprentice as my main account icon. Alright, so if I double click on that, that will launch Dungeon Defenders on my main account. And that's what I want to see right there. Excellent. I'm going to click exit game. Now, let's go back to the guide. We want to build shortcuts for the alternate accounts. We've completed all of this by creating that batch file, sending it to our desktop, and then editing the shortcut. Now we want to create the shortcuts for our alternate accounts. So there are two ways of doing this, and I'm going to take obviously Alt-1. So I'm going to grab this information here. I'm just going to copy it, and I'm going to just paste it into a notepad file so I can edit it here. This is the launch script for Dungeon Defenders for our second account, for our alternate account. So in the first part here, we're going to launch the sandbox, and we're going to use this sandbox. Now my sandbox, I don't know if it's case sensitive, but my sandbox is DD1, so I'm just going to put capital DD1 because we want to launch it off of this sandbox, this DD1 sandbox. This is the directory, the file path to ForceBind. Now we need to edit our IP address to the one that we already set up. So we know that 252 is for my main account, so 253 is going to be for my alternate account. And again, this path is wrong for my game, so I need to edit the path to the game for me. So I'm already in here. I'm going to grab this again and paste it in here. Alright, this is the path to the game for me. So I'm going to copy that information and just minimize all these windows. I'm going to right click on my desktop and go new shortcut, and I'm just going to paste what we already put in there. I'm going to click next, and I'm naming this DD1-alt. Finish. I'll move that up here. Now I'm going to right click on here because I do not want the Sandboxie icon. I'm going to go to properties, and I'm going to click change icon, and I'm going to browse for that. Now again, these are icons I created off of, these are basically all DDA player icons. I think they look pretty cool. So I'm going to use Huntress as my icon for my alternate account. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to click apply and OK. So now I have a Huntress icon for my alternate account. If I run that, this pops up, and if I go to my alternate Steam account here, we can see that I am absolutely running the game on my alternate account. Yes, I am in Dungeon Defenders. Alright, we'll minimize that. I'm going to go ahead and click exit. Now we have one more thing we want to do. We want to be able to launch Steam on our sandbox. So let's go into our sandbox here and right click on the sandbox, on the right click on the box you created, and we're going to go to Box Content, Create Shortcut. And yes, let's click OK. So this will bring up this section here, and it's just basically the start menu. And now I need to choose what I want to create a shortcut to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to All Files and Folders, C Drive, Program Files x86, and then I'm going to go all the way down to Steam Sand. That's the directory that we created earlier, and I'm going to click on steam.exe. And now it's going to say, yeah, all right, we want to create a Steam link. I'm going to click Save. It's on my desktop. Here we go. So here's Steam. I don't like the name, so I'm going to name it Steam-Alt. So we have it not. So running this is going to the properties of that shortcut, and it's basically running Steam out of the Steam Sand directory. I'm going to get rid of comment. I don't care about comments. And I'm going to get rid of start end. I'm going to click apply, and I'm going to click OK. Actually, I'm going to click compatibility and click run this program as administrator. Click apply, click OK. So now I've created my shortcut to Steam that will run in the Sandbox environment. Alright, with our shortcuts set up, let's go ahead and launch our main Dungeon Defenders account. Alright, we are in our tavern. Now let's go to our alt. Excellent. Now we are in Dungeon Defenders on our alternate account. We'll go back to our main account and let's go invite. Invite friends. And there we go. We are now in each other's games, and you're all free to run whatever map you want. You now have an alternate account, and it's time to start leveling up all those characters. Have fun running loads and loads of Tink's campaign, and you're good to go. We'll go ahead and exit out of here. And we are done here. And that is it for this video. The last thing I would say is if you do run into any issues with your setup, any questions you have about the Sandboxie setup, I honestly am not going to be able to help you much. I know as much as I've covered in this video and what's in that Steam guide that UncrownedData put together. I highly suggest if you do have some issues or need some help to go to the DDRNG Discord and ask your questions in the help channel there. There are a lot of people there who have these kind of setups, a lot of different multiple setups. They're very knowledgeable and they're very helpful. I highly suggest that group if you have any issues. Thanks for watching, and hopefully this video will be a great companion to the guide, and hopefully it helps somebody. Thank you.